The space was quiet. The stars were calm. A small convoy of human ships moved slowly across the darkness. There were no weapons on these ships, no soldiers. Only doctors, engineers, and volunteers. They were part of Earth's aid mission, sent to help a dying alien colony in the Torvin system. The colony had been hit by a strange disease. Half the population was already dead. The rest were waiting, hoping for help. Earth had answered the call. That's what humans did now. After centuries of war, they had changed. They had built peace, and they had offered help to any species in need, even if they were not allies. Captain Lena Hayes stood on the bridge of the lead ship, Mercy Dawn. She was calm, focused. Her short brown hair was tied back, her uniform clean and simple. She had led many missions like this one. ETA to Torvin. 11 hours, her pilot said. Lena nodded. Keep scanning for signs of trouble. We're close to Dominion space. I don't trust them. The crew exchanged glances. The Varn Dominion had always been cold toward humans. They sat on the Galactic Council, but avoided contact with Earth. Rumors said they hated humanity, but there had never been an open attack. Until now. The convoy included 5 ships. Mercy Dawn, 2 medical ships, 1 cargo freighter filled with medicine, and a support vessel carrying engineers and tech specialists. All of them unarmed. All of them peaceful. They didn't expect to be in danger. But Lena always prepared for the worst. Check communication lines. Any strange activity on wideband channels? She asked. Her comms officer replied. We're getting some weak signals, maybe static, or encrypted messages. Lena's eyes narrowed. Try to trace them, and increase sensor range. I want to know what's around us. 3 hours passed. The crew ate, worked, talked softly. They shared stories about the aliens they had helped before. They talked about the children on the last planet, smiling even while sick. Lena smiled at the memory. She loved her work. Helping others reminded her why she joined the fleet. She wasn't a soldier. She had never fired a weapon. But she believed in doing good. That belief had brought her here. That belief would be tested soon. Captain, the sensor tech called out. I'm picking up movement. 5. No, 6 ships. Direction. Unknown. Lena walked over. The screen showed flickers of heat signatures, fast-moving dots in the dark. Are they broadcasting any ID? No, ma'am. They're silent. Lena stared at the screen. Too fast to be pirates. Too coordinated. Her gut tightened. Alert the convoy. Full readiness. Activate emergency shields. The ship's lights dimmed slightly. The crew moved quickly, trained for emergencies, but they didn't expect what came next. In 1 second, the peace shattered. A burst of plasma fire struck the rear medical ship. It exploded instantly, breaking into pieces. Screams filled the comms. We're under attack. Someone shouted. Another ship was hit, losing power. The cargo freighter tried to turn, but it was too slow. Another blast. The support vessel sent out a distress signal, but the signal was jammed. Who is attacking us? Lena shouted. The answer came not in words, but in weapons. The enemy ships were sleek, dark, and deadly. They bore no flags, no colors, but their shape was familiar. Varn Dominion design. They're Varn. Her comms officer said. No ID, but the hull signature matches. Lena's hands trembled with fury. This is an aid convoy. We're unarmed, but the enemy didn't care. They kept firing. Mercy Dawn dodged and weaved, but it couldn't escape. Another explosion rocked the ship. We've lost engine 2, shouted the engineer. Shields failing. Lena grabbed the comm unit. She knew she wouldn't survive. But someone had to know. Someone had to hear what was happening. This is Captain Lena Hayes of the Earth Federation, she said into the recorder. We are under attack. The aid convoy has been ambushed. No provocation. No warning. I repeat, we were delivering medical help. They knew. And they didn't care. We are not soldiers. We are healers. But they chose death over mercy. If you hear this, remember us. The recording ended as Mercy Dawn took a direct hit. The ship cracked, shook, and tore apart. Lena's final scream echoed in the silent dark. The stars watched, cold and uncaring. The convoy was gone, destroyed. 5 ships, 52 humans, killed for trying to help. On Earth, silence filled the command center as the last transmission played. Officers sat frozen. Families cried. President Canavero stood still, his fists clenched. He replayed Lena's last words again and again. He could not stop. Her voice haunted him. The Council would call it a mistake. The Dominion would deny it. But Kai knew this was no accident. This was a message. Humanity had tried peace. It had given aid, shown mercy, and built trust. But now, blood filled the stars, and Earth would answer, not with more kindness, but with fire. In the darkness of space, something had changed. A line had been crossed. And from that moment on, vengeance was coming. The room was silent when President Canavero stood before the Earth Federation High Command. His face looked tired, but his eyes were full of fire. The image of Captain Lena's final transmission was still fresh in everyone's minds. The room was filled with generals, scientists, diplomats, and a few AI advisors. A large screen behind him showed the wreckage of the aid convoy floating in space, cold, dark, lifeless. Kai spoke with a heavy voice. We sent doctors. We sent medicine. We sent peace. He paused. And they killed them. All of them. Without warning. Without mercy. No one said a word. They all knew what had happened. The Varn Dominion had attacked unarmed ships. Earth had done nothing wrong. It was murder. Pure and simple. General Harper, head of Earth's defense forces, leaned forward. We've confirmed the attackers were Varn ships. No flags, no IDs, but the design, the weapons, the engine trails. There's no doubt. It was them. A hologram popped up, showing the ships that had ambushed the convoy. Sharp, black, fast. They jammed all signals. They planned it. They wanted no survivors. Kai turned to the room. We've tried to be part of the Galactic Council. We followed the rules. We gave help when no one else would. But now, one of the Council powers just wiped out our people. What should we do now? An AI named Polaris spoke softly, its voice calm and smooth. We have legal grounds to demand justice through the Council system. File charges. Demand trials. General Harper's eyes narrowed. And while we wait for the Council to argue, the Varn will be laughing. They'll be planning their next move. The President raised his hand. Then we give them a choice. Justice or consequence. A new plan was forming in his mind. Not a war, not yet, but something the Varn would understand. Earth had many sides. One side gave aid. The other brought storms. In orbit around Earth, the ISV Wrathborn was activated. It was Earth's largest stealth battlecruiser, black as night, armed with weapons still classified to most of the galaxy. It hadn't moved in years. It was a ghost ship, a last resort weapon. Now it came alive. Lights flickered on. Power surged through its systems. Deep in the ship's core, an AI named Ash woke from sleep. Orders. The AI asked as its eyes lit red. General Harper appeared on the screen. Ash, you are now in command of Operation Iron Mercy. You will track the Varn fleet that attacked our convoy. You will gather evidence, and if they refuse justice, she paused, make them regret it. Ash did not blink. It never needed to. Understood. Beginning silent warp. No detection. In less than 10 seconds, the Wrathborn disappeared from Earth's orbit. Not even the satellites noticed. It became a shadow in space, moving toward the Varn borders. Meanwhile, Earth's diplomats arrived at the Galactic Council. Ambassador Raina Valen stood in the center of the Great Chamber. Thousands of alien eyes watched her. The Varn delegates sat across the room, their faces cold and proud. Reyna wasted no time. 52 human lives were taken. No warning, no excuse. This was not an accident. This was a message, and we have heard it. A low murmur spread through the council. Reyna continued, "We ask for a full investigation. We ask for those responsible to be handed over. We ask for peace to mean something." The Varn delegate stood slowly. His voice was dry and sharp. "There is no proof we attacked your ships. Accidents happen in wild space. Perhaps pirates. Perhaps malfunction. Not our problem." Reyna stared at him. "You forget. Humans do not walk alone anymore." She turned. Behind her, representatives from 3 other species stood. The Aurelians, the Grax, and the Hanu. They had all received aid from Earth. They remembered Earth's kindness. And now, they stood beside humanity. Back on the Wrathborn, the AI Ash moved quietly through space. It tracked energy signatures, weapon fire marks, and communication echoes. In a dark corner of the Varn border, it found what it needed: a hidden base used by the Varn military. Around it floated the wreckage of stolen aid supplies, human medicine crates, broken life pods, a floating scarf that once belonged to a doctor. Ash recorded everything. It sent the footage back to Earth. The evidence was now clear. The Varn had attacked the convoy on purpose and tried to hide it. Earth had its proof. Now came the choice. Would the Council act? Or would Earth have to answer in its own way? President Kai watched the footage in silence. Then he said, "Send the message to the Council. Give them 48 hours. Either the Varn surrender those responsible, or we act." The message was sent. All across the galaxy, species watched in silence. Some were afraid. Others whispered, "What will the humans do?" They would soon find out. 48 hours had passed. The Galactic Council gave no answer. The Varn stayed silent. No apology, no surrender, just silence and smug faces behind golden robes. They thought Earth was still playing politics. They thought the humans were still soft. But deep in space, the Wrathborn had already moved. The massive stealth ship was now inside Varn-controlled territory. Its engines made no sound. Its hull absorbed all light. It was invisible to the eye, to scanners, to heat sensors. Like a shadow of death, it moved closer to the Varn base that held the stolen aid supplies. Ash, the ship's AI, studied the enemy station. It counted 312 crew, 3 small warships, 8 defense turrets, standard weapons, weak shields, no match. Ash didn't feel anger. It didn't feel anything. It simply calculated. Justice was a number to be solved. Targeting complete, it said aloud, though no one else was there. Beginning Operation Judgment. The first strike was silent. A pulse of dark energy ripped through the base's outer defenses. The shields failed in 1 second. The power generators exploded in 5. Then came the kinetic rounds, rods of tungsten, fired from orbit, faster than sound. They hit the station like thunder. The Varn had no time to react, no time to call for help. In 12 seconds, the entire station was gone. Not broken, gone. Nothing but floating dust and melted metal. The 3 warships tried to run. The Wrathborn didn't chase them. It simply fired once. 3 shots, 3 kills. Each enemy ship shattered into fire. Ash sent a message to Earth. Target eliminated. Justice delivered. Awaiting further orders. Back on Earth, the video spread fast. At first, only the High Command saw it. Then President Kai made the decision. Let the galaxy see what happens when you murder our people. The footage was sent to the Galactic Council. It was sent to every news stream, every data feed, every space terminal. The message was clear. Earth was no longer asking for justice. Earth was enforcing it. The reaction was chaos. Some species panicked. Others cheered. The Aurelians lit their sky towers in blue. the human color of mourning and strength. The Grax offered military aid. Even the silent Henu shared ancient war data with Earth, something they never gave anyone. But in the Galactic Council, the Varn were furious. They demanded sanctions. They called Earth violent and dangerous. "They are out of control," one Varn leader shouted, but the room was not with him. This time, no one backed him up. Too many eyes had seen the truth. Too many hearts remembered the humans' help. Ambassador Reyna stood in the council chamber once more. Calm. Focused. "You murdered doctors. We destroyed weapons. Do not pretend those are the same thing." Still, war was coming. The Varn, wounded and humiliated, began to gather their fleets. Over 50 warships moved toward the edge of human space. Earth saw it all. Satellites tracked the ships. Spies heard the orders. Earth's leaders watched in silence. General Harper gathered the Terran Defense Council. "The Varn are bringing fire," she said. "Then we meet them with thunder." The Terran Armada was launched. Ships that had slept for years came alive. Carriers, destroyers, frigates, and stealth cruisers left Earth orbit one by one. The stars above Earth looked like they were moving as hundreds of ships passed into warp space. The people of Earth watched from cities, farms, and moon bases. Children pointed. Veterans saluted. No one felt fear. Not anymore. Among the ships was the ISV Vindicator, a command ship with 2 quantum railguns and advanced defense fields. On board was Captain Ilias Dorn, a war hero known for ending the Harkon siege with just 5 ships. He was calm, but his voice had steel in it. "We're not going to start a war," he told his crew. "We're going to end a message, once and for all." Meanwhile, the Wrathborn moved again. This time, not as a ghost, but as a warning. It entered Varn space, above a military outpost known for raids and secret experiments. Ash sent a simple signal to their command tower. "You have 1 hour to evacuate. Civilians only. Soldiers will not be spared." The Varn laughed. They didn't believe it. They stayed. Ash didn't wait. Exactly 60 minutes later, the Wrathborn fired its pulse cannon. The outpost's shield cracked like glass. The towers collapsed. The weapon bays melted. Again, no trace remained. The galaxy was in shock. No human had fired first. But each attack was clean, fast, and exact. It was justice, but it looked like vengeance. The line between them was thin now. Back on Earth, some leaders worried. "What if this goes too far?" asked one senator. "What if we become monsters?" President Kai stood before them. "We didn't start this, but we will finish it, not for glory, not for hate, for Lena, for every doctor and aid worker who died asking for nothing, for every cry we heard and answered, and for every cry we won't hear again, because they silenced it." And across the stars, the Varn finally understood. Earth was not just a world with kind people and soft voices. It was a world with steel beneath its skin. They thought humanity would beg. Instead, humanity buried them in silence. The galaxy watched in silence. From the crowded markets of the Zavar to the frozen skies of Helion Prime, every species was whispering one name: Earth. They remembered the kindness, the aid convoys, the peace missions, and now they saw the fire hidden behind the smile. One aid ship was attacked. One. And already the Varn had lost 3 bases, 10 warships, and more than 1,000 soldiers. The Terran response was not just fast, it was surgical, cold, and unstoppable. Some feared it, some respected it, but no one could ignore it. In Varn territory, panic spread like fire. Civilian ships began to flee core systems. Families left colonies behind. Even small border stations went dark, scared that one wrong signal would bring the Wrathborn. Ash had become a name of terror among the stars. Children were told stories. Behave, or the dark ship will come. Varn leaders tried to control the fear, but nothing worked. They had poked a sleeping beast, And now that beast was fully awake. The Varn High Command met in secret, 10 warlords, all with power, pride, and fear in their eyes. We underestimated them, one said. We must stop before they destroy our empire. But another, older voice shouted back, no, we cannot show weakness. If we back down, the Council will see us as cowards. Earth must be crushed. That same day, 50 Varn warships entered human space. Their target was Outpost Asteron, a science and communication hub in orbit above the quiet moon of Veltor. It had only 3 defense cannons, mostly scientists and communication workers. The Varn thought it would be an easy victory, a small hit to break Earth's pride. But Earth was ready. What the Varn didn't know was that Outpost Asteron had been reinforced in secret. Hidden under the surface were new Terran defense drones, armed with antimatter missiles. Waiting, watching, and behind the moon's dark side floated 4 Earth warships, cloaked in silence. As soon as the Varn ships entered firing range, the trap was triggered. The sky turned red. Missiles screamed through the stars. Lasers carved through steel. Terran ships cut across the Varn formation like blades through paper. Within 5 minutes, 20 Varn ships were gone. The rest tried to run, but were hunted down. Not a single invader escaped. Across the galaxy, news spread fast. This wasn't defense. This was a warning. Earth had drawn a line, and anything that crossed it would burn. In the Galactic Council, the silence was deep. For years, they saw Earth as kind, quiet, helpful. They didn't expect this kind of response. Some were angry, some were afraid. And some, those who truly understood humanity, nodded quietly. The Terran ambassador Reyna stood once more in the Great Hall. Her voice was calm, but every word hit like thunder. You sat in this chamber while our doctors died, she said. You watched our aid ships burn. And now you ask why we fight. This isn't war. This is consequence. The Varn chose this. We only answered. One counselor, a Drevik with crystal skin, asked softly, will you stop? Reyna looked straight into his eyes. That depends on the Varn. They end this, or we finish what they started. Back on Earth, people were united. The attack had brought grief, but also fire. Young men and women volunteered to join the Terran fleet. Shipyards doubled their work. Engineers designed new weapons. Earth wasn't just reacting now. It was preparing. For anything. Meanwhile, President Kai received a strange message. It came from a secret channel, hidden in the outer systems. The signal was weak, but clear. Humanity. We have information. We wish to help. Meet us. The message came from the Velari, a mysterious race that rarely spoke to outsiders. They were known for knowledge, for peace, for secrets. The president sent her best, Commander Lyra Maddox, a sharp, fearless leader known for solving the Red Star crisis. Lyra's ship, the Seraph Blade, traveled through uncharted space. Nebulas twisted around them like ghosts. Strange lights danced outside the windows. Then they saw it, a Velari station shaped like a silver flower, floating in the middle of nothing. Lyra met the Velari Elder, a tall being with glowing lines running through his skin. His name was Ishel. He spoke slowly, every word heavy. You fight the Varn, but you do not know their full crimes. Lyra raised an eyebrow. We've seen what they did to our aid convoy. That was enough. Ishel shook his head. That was the surface. Look deeper. He handed her a data crystal. Inside was proof. The Varn didn't just attack aid ships. They had been running secret programs, capturing human travelers, testing weapons, using forbidden tech. Some of it made with Council support. And worse, there were whispers of a plan to strike Earth directly, before humanity grew too powerful. Lyra clenched her jaw. Why are you giving this to us? Ishel answered, because we believe in balance, and the Varn broke it. She returned to Earth with the data. It was shown to the Council. The lies were over. No more hiding behind fake diplomacy. The truth was out, and it shocked even Earth's strongest critics. But Earth didn't gloat. It prepared. The Wrathborn received new coordinates deep inside the Varn homeworld system, a target marked only as Project Sorrow. No one knew what it meant. Not yet. But Ash's voice was ready. Tracking. Approaching. Ending. The galaxy held its breath again. No one moved. No one blinked. Because when Earth said it would respond, it did. And the final blow was still coming. The galaxy waited. It was a silence like no other. Even the stars seemed to hold their breath, suspended in the unknown. As Earth's fleet moved into position, far away from prying eyes, the Varn were preparing for their final push. They knew Earth had been ruthless in its response, but they believed they could end it. They believed they could crush humanity once and for all. But they were wrong. The last message from the Varn was not one of bravado or threats, but one of desperation. Their leaders begged the Galactic Council for help, but it was too late. The Council, shaken and divided by Earth's unyielding wrath, had already started distancing themselves from the Varn. There would be no rescue. The Varn were on their own now. The human fleet, under the command of Admiral Ash, sat silently just beyond the Varn border. The black void of space was still, but the weight of what was to come hung heavily in the air. The Earth fleet was vast. More than 100 ships, all armed with the latest technology and weapons. They were ready to strike, to finish what had been started. But Ash knew the Varn had something they weren't expecting. A final weapon, one hidden in the heart of their system. The intelligence they had gathered indicated it was a device capable of turning the tide. A last-ditch effort to save their dying empire. The Varn were desperate enough to use it. And Ash knew that if they didn't strike first, the consequences would be catastrophic. The Wrathborn, Earth's most powerful warship, led the charge, its engines burning bright against the dark expanse of space. The other ships followed in formation, each one a sentinel in the silent march toward the Varn heart of power. The stars around them seemed to dim, as if the universe itself was waiting for the inevitable clash. On board the Wrathborn, Ash stood in the command center, his eyes fixed on the data stream flashing across the screens. His fingers danced over the control panel, adjusting the course, giving the final orders. All ships, prepare for assault, he commanded, his voice steady, unwavering. Target the heart of the Varn fleet. No survivors. We end this today. The words echoed through the ship as every crew member, every soldier, braced themselves for the coming battle. The Wrathborn's weapon systems powered up, its laser cannons humming with energy. The shields glowed bright as they powered to full capacity. All around Ash, the crew was calm, but the air was thick with tension. This was it. This was the moment. And then, the Varn made their move. A fleet of warships, vast and filled with fear, burst from their home system. They were too late to defend their capital, but they still had one weapon to try, a weapon unlike anything seen before. As the ships advanced, a massive surge of energy radiated from the center of the fleet. The device, Project Sorrow, activated. The energy wave it sent out was like nothing Ash had ever seen before. It was a pulse of dark energy, something ancient and powerful. The very fabric of space seemed to ripple and bend as the energy surged outward, aiming directly at the human fleet. The Varn had no choice but to use it. It was their final hope. Ash's eyes narrowed as he saw the pulse heading straight for his fleet. His heart pounded in his chest. He had known this was coming, but seeing it in real time sent a chill through him. This was the end, or so it seemed. Brace for impact. Ash ordered, his voice strong despite the rising tension in his gut. He had prepared for this. He had trained for this. But even he couldn't predict what would happen next. The pulse hit. For a moment, everything went black. The entire fleet was caught in the energy wave. Ships shuddered, and the comms went dead. For a heartbeat, it seemed like the entire human fleet had been wiped out. Ash's heart skipped a beat as the ship's sensors scrambled to keep up with the sudden change in their surroundings. Then, the blackness lifted. The Rathborn was still intact, its shields holding, though flickering weakly from the blast. The surrounding ships, though damaged, were not destroyed. The Varn weapon had not been enough to stop them. But something had changed. The human fleet wasn't just surviving. It was now more determined than ever. Ash stood up, a fire igniting within him. The Varn had made their last mistake. They had thrown their ultimate weapon at them, and it had failed. Now, Earth's response would be swift and final. Target the Varn flagship. Ash commanded, his voice cold. Prepare to fire everything we've got. The weapons on the Rathborn hummed to life, and the entire fleet followed suit. Their cannons, charged with the full power of Earth's most advanced technology, locked onto the Varn flagship. The massive ship, sleek and filled with power, looked like a beast ready to strike. But it was no match for the Earth fleet now. Fire. The first salvo of missiles launched from the human ships, tearing through space with deadly accuracy. The Varn flagship tried to retaliate, firing its own weapons in a desperate attempt to stop the onslaught. But it was too late. The missiles struck their target, tearing into the Varn ship's hull. The explosion was massive, lighting up the dark void of space. One by one, the Varn ships began to fall. Their desperate attempts to fight back were futile against the overwhelming might of the Terran fleet. No longer were they the invaders. They were the ones running now, scrambling to escape the relentless pursuit of Earth's warships. The battle was over in minutes. The Varn fleet, once proud and powerful, was now nothing but debris floating in space. The human fleet had won, but it was not just a victory. It was a statement, a declaration. Earth was not to be underestimated. Not anymore. As the last Varn ship was destroyed, Ash allowed himself a moment to breathe. The war was over, but it wasn't just the end of the battle. It was the end of a chapter in history. The galaxy would never look at Earth the same way again. And as the Terran ships turned back toward home, Ash stood in silence. He didn't feel the relief he expected. Instead, all he felt was the weight of what had been lost. The lives, the families, the sacrifices. But the galaxy now knew the truth. Humanity was not to be trifled with, and the Varn would never again threaten Earth or anyone else, for as long as the stars burned. The message was clear. Earth would always stand, and no one would ever forget what had happened, because in the end, it wasn't just about victory. It was about the message they sent to the galaxy. Never again.